Hello, and welcome to another edition of our monthly Facebook Live session here in the Office of Admission. My name is Heath Einstein. I'm the Dean of Admission at TCU, and so excited to have you join us once again. Or if this is your first time, then I'm really excited to have you join us. And so many people have already tuned in. Hi, Julie from Denver. Hi, Tristan from Texas, Nick from Seattle, Mason from Chicago. Mason, I got your email earlier today. Thank you very much. I'm going to email you back later. C from Towson in the Baltimore area. Kelly from the city of brotherly love in Philadelphia. This is just so cool to see everybody here. As we do with all of our Facebook Live events, we always start with a land acknowledgement because here at TCU, we're located on the ancestral homeland of the Wichita and affiliated tribes, and we are forever in the debt of all Native peoples who have been on this land since time immemorial. Now, you know that we have been doing this event now for quite a while. In fact, we started this last March with our program on standardized testing in the college admission process and campus visits. We went through everything from course selection to college essays to financial aid and career and professional development. We've had guests on. It's been a really, really fabulous year. And I'm reminded, of course, that it has been exactly a year. So we're going to celebrate the year by just wishing ourselves a happy birthday. So sing along with me if you'd like. Happy birthday to us. Happy birthday to us. Happy birthday, dear Office of Admission Facebook Live events. Happy birthday to us. Okay, thank you. That was a lot of fun. Okay, so this month's theme, as you probably know, is we're going to talk about how to actually select the college. And this seems like a really good time to do that. How do you actually choose the college because of where we are in the admissions cycle? It is now March the 2nd, 2022, which means if you are a senior in high school and you have applied to college, you either have already found out if you've gotten in somewhere, or you're going to find out very soon. So let me briefly actually tell you a little bit about where we are in our process. Of course, in December, we already in December admitted students through the early decision round 1 application round. We admitted students through our early action non-binding application round. Then we had our next application deadline, which was February 1st. That was for early decision round 2 and regular decision. Those students who applied under that deadline, or I should say, and students who had applied early action and whose applications were deferred to the next round, their applications, or maybe your applications, are being reviewed right now. We are at the tail end of that process. In fact, those who applied early decision round 2 are going to find out, hopefully, if everything works right with the technology, in just a couple of days. So we're really, really close to releasing those decisions. For those who have applied regular decision or whose applications were deferred to the regular decision round, those decisions will come out in a couple of weeks. We don't have a precise date to share with you yet, but I would say in about 2 weeks, or maybe a little less, you will find out from us if you've been admitted to TCU. So that'll just give you a sense of where we are in our process. Okay, so if you've been with us before, this is a fairly unscripted program. I just have a few notes that I like to go through, and then we're going to open it up for questions. I want to get to as many questions as we can and as you have. And by the way, if you're not a senior, if you are at some point before the senior year, this is also a really relevant conversation because a lot of the themes that we're going to talk about that influence where a student might decide to enroll in college are precisely the factors that students consider when figuring out where to apply to college. So you're going to want to definitely pay close attention. If you end up having questions that aren't exactly about the topic tonight, that is okay. We'll get to as many questions as we can. We're scheduled for about an hour. If we go that long, great. If we're done before then, that's okay too. But this is how we do it. Okay. Finally, before we roll into it, I do want to offer a couple of notes of gratitude. Rob Berline from Alumni Relations and Liz Rainwater from the Office of Admission. They are working behind the scenes to make sure that everything flows flawlessly, and I thank you very much. Okay. Oh, one other thing before we get into it. Let's see. They said in the promos, we've been doing these dad jokes for the last few months. So since they promoted another, I'll give you two more now. Okay. Joke number one is, um, why did the graveyard seem overcrowded? Why did the graveyard seem overcrowded? Because everyone was dying to get there. Everyone was dying to get there. Okay, that's pretty macabre. Let's go away from that. That's too sad. Okay, joke number two, dad joke number two. Why should you never call people average? Why would you never want to call somebody average? Well, that's just mean. That is really mean. Okay, that's a math joke and really a statistics joke. So hopefully you got those. Um, okay, again, tonight's topic is making the final decision. So let's move into it. This is really, as I said, the perfect time of year for seniors to be thinking about it. There are a host of factors that could go into making a final decision. Okay. And the thing about this is when you've gotten into college and maybe several colleges and you're comparing one to another, and maybe you've had friends who are applying to the same college and they got into the same colleges and they're comparing one to another, you might end up making different decisions because, of course, you're looking for different things. I mean, there may have been enough commonality to where you applied to the same school, but what matters to you most might be quite different. Everybody has their own priority scale. So let's start with the reason why we admit students to college primarily, and that is academics. So for a lot of students, the decision is going to come down to the academic opportunities that exist on the college campus. You want to know, does the college offer the major that you're interested in? And if you're not sure exactly what you want to major in, does it offer a lot of different majors covering a range of academic opportunities? And also, is it easy to switch from one major to another? At TCU, it is. So long as you're in good academic standing, not a problem to transfer from one major to another. What is the relationship like between students and faculty? At TCU, our student to faculty ratio is 13 to 1. And our students, especially because the focal point for TCU is that baccalaureate experience, that 4-year undergraduate experience, the connections, the mentor-mentee relationships that develop between faculty and student are critically important. And so if you've been at a school where you've had that, or maybe you've been at a high school where you haven't had that, but you long for something like that, then having that connection to faculty is really, really important. And does it matter to you whether the school focuses on undergraduate students or whether they have opportunities more for graduate students? I would think that that would matter, which is why I think TCU is great and really holds a unique space in the higher ed ecosystem. But that's only for you to decide. And then what about research opportunities? If I'm an undergraduate student, do I have the chance to work in labs with professors? Or can I be a TA? Or can I, again, develop that sort of relationship where if I have a professor who's working on um, a, a book, can I do some research behind the scenes to help out and get myself published or present at professional conferences? Those are the kinds of opportunities that exist at TCU, and I would hope that that would matter to you as you're thinking about where to go to school. Another factor for a lot of students is location. What kind of location am I going to be in for my 4 years of college? Location can mean a lot of different things. It could mean how far away or how close to home am I? What is the distance from home? Some students want to be really close to mom and dad. Some people want mom and dad nowhere near them. Um, and so you need to decide for yourself what is a comfortable distance and how easily can I access this location? So I could be 1,000 miles from home, but it could be really hard to get to, or it could be 1,000 miles from home and it could be a very short plane ride. So that ease of access is going to be a factor that you're going to need to weigh. And then, is the area that I'm going to, is it urban? Is it suburban? Is it rural? Do they have opportunities for me off campus that I'm going to want to take advantage of? So the location is really important. We think we have the best location in the world. Fort Worth, Texas is the 12th largest city in the United States. It's one of the fastest growing cities in the United States. There's so much to do here, and yet we're on a beautiful residential campus. And so our students really do have the best of both worlds. They're able to make strong connections with folks here, but they can get out into the city and take advantage of everything that there is to do, not just in the city of Fort Worth, but the larger Fort Worth, Dallas metroplex, which sort of bleeds into the next factor that might be important to you, and that is pre-professional opportunities. What are the job opportunities for me while I'm a student here? Job opportunities could mean just getting a job so I can have some spending money, like maybe working at the local pizza parlor. Or it could mean, and more likely to mean, what internships can I get? Because I know I want to study um, journalism. And will I have the opportunity to work for a media company here in the DFW area or wherever else you're looking? Or let's say I'm planning to major in physics. Are there labs nearby off campus that I can get a job at and work under the tutelage of a mentor off campus? Um, and then what about networking opportunities? How closely connected would I be as a TCU student to the vast alumni base at the university, whether that's here in the Fort Worth area or connecting back to your own hometown? We Horned Frogs are everywhere. And that means you're going to make strong connections while you're a student here. And then after you're a graduate from TCU and you're an alum and you go out into the world, having those connections can make a big difference for you, not just socially, but professionally. And then in particular here in Fort Worth, we have such a diverse array of industries that our students get fantastic jobs while they're in school that they often parlay into full-time employment after college. So when you're thinking about the school that you might want to go to, you need to consider not just what the 4 years are going to be like, but what will that mean for you in preparation for the decades that will follow for you. And then what about campus life? There's a lot to love about our campus. And any campus that you go to, you need to consider things like the residence halls, where you're going to live, and the food that you're going to be eating. You know, you're going to be eating that food for 4 years. Are you going to get sick of it after the first week? Or are you going to still enjoy the fact that at TCU, you're going to get freshly made food every day with lots of yummy desserts too? I just want to add that. What about athletics? Maybe I want to do intramural or club sports, or maybe I want to be a fan or participate in intercollegiate athletics. At TCU, of course, as a member of the Big 12 Conference, we play a really high level of athletics, and that imbues our campus with a strong sense of spirit. So, what kind of spirit do you want on campus? Does it matter to you if you go to a school where everyone is drenched in the school colors, like you would see at TCU? Everyone's got purple on and raising up the Go Frogs all the time. Or are you comfortable being on a college campus where people are wearing the gear from the college that they kind of wanted to go to but didn't get in, or maybe where mom or dad went to school? That sort of thing makes a difference in terms of the vibe that you feel on campus. And then what are the other organizations and clubs that you might get involved with? At TCU, we've got hundreds of them, ranging from fraternity and sorority life to music and dance and other fine and performing arts clubs. Community service work, mission trips. If these are the things that you value, you need to investigate what the schools that you've been admitted to have to offer for you. And then what is the composition of the student body? Does everybody there look the same and act the same and think the same? Or does the university reflect the broad cross section of our society, which is a big part of going to college? It's you want to be able to interface with people who don't have your same life experiences. And so at TCU, when you come to our campus, you're going to be engaged with people from all over the place. You could see just when we were going through the introductions where people come from. This is rather reflective of what the student body at TCU is like. So you want to make sure that you're going to be in an environment where, at least if this is important to you, where you are going to be able to meet differences in a really wonderful and positive way, like we have at TCU. Um, Cost of attendance is a huge factor for a lot of folks. And so, especially as the cost of attendance continues to go up and up each year on college campuses across America, you need to make sure that when you are doing your final analysis, that if cost is a factor for you, as it is for most families, that you're making smart choices about how you're going to invest those educational dollars. Remember, this is an investment that will pay off over the course of your lifetime. And so only you can decide what is the dollar amount that will work for you, what you can afford to pay, as well as what you're willing to pay. And those two are not always the exact same thing. Um, but you want to see what the scholarship offers are at the universities. You want to see what the need based financial aid offers are at the university. Look to that bottom line and then compare and contrast. And if TCU is your top choice and we're less expensive than any other school that you're looking at, well, hey, that makes it easy. If we're your top choice and we're a little bit more than the other schools you're looking at, you might determine this is still worth the investment. Um, I got a couple of pieces of advice for you, and then we'll open it up for questions. One is, um, if you have the opportunity, you should definitely plan to visit college campuses, the ones that you've gotten into, especially if they are, especially the ones that you're most sincere about, the ones you're most interested in. You might have gotten into 7 or 8 schools, but you might have said to yourself, you know what? I'm really only interested in about 2 or 3 of them that I've gotten into. Let's plan a visit. Colleges have special admitted student events. At TCU, we call that Experience TCU. We offer them several times in the spring semester. Once you've been admitted, you can go into the student portal and register for Experience TCU. That is the one event that's inside the portal versus what you can find on our website. Um, and then come for a campus visit. And when you're on campus, of course, we have lots of people on our staff and lots of students who are here to tell you what makes TCU so great. Um, I would encourage you, no matter what college campus you visit, to spend time talking to people who aren't paid by the university to tell you how great the place is. And I can almost guarantee you that when you talk to somebody at TCU who doesn't work for the Office of Admission, they're still going to tell you this is the place where you want to be. This is a campus where our students are incredibly happy. And just going back to the cost of attendance that we were talking about earlier, if you're going to spend a lot of money on a college experience, you want to be somewhere where people are really happy to be there. So, um, so you definitely want to talk to people who aren't sort of the hired guns. Um, I also encourage students and parents, if you're visiting campus together, to spend some time apart when you're doing these visits. Because what you'll find is sometimes if you're together the whole time, a little bit of groupthink sets in. Whereas if you have some time to divide up and see different parts of campus and talk to different people, then you come back together and you compare and contrast notes. You might have seen the same thing. You might have seen something a little bit different. Either way, I think that's a great way to go. Um, the other piece of advice I would offer to parents is talk to parents of current TCU students or talk to parents of recent TCU graduates so you can find out from your perspective the things that you need to know. And sometimes you want to ask those questions and you don't really know who to talk to. You can call our office or email our office, and we're happy to put you in touch with parents of current TCU students who can tell you the skinny about life at TCU. Okay, let's jump into some questions. And I know that we always ask on Instagram ahead of time what questions you might have. So we're going to start with a couple of those. Um, Young Brennan's asked on Instagram, how does TCU help freshman kids who do not know what they want to major in? Young Brennans, that is an excellent question. It is very common for first year students not to know what they want to major in. And in fact, I would say that while it's fine for students to know what they want to major in, it's really unfair of adults to ask students at age 17 or 18 what they plan to do with the rest of their lives. Because we know from science that your prefrontal cortex is not fully formed until well after you start college. In fact, it's not really fully developed until after you're done with college. And so we need to give young people time to really flesh out what their passions are and see how that meets, how that aligns with what the university has to offer. So, what we will do for you is you're going to meet with an academic advisor. If you come into TCU, well, you'll, no matter whether you have a major or not, you're going to have an advisor. um, if you are a what we call pre-major, and that's our way of saying undecided, um, you will immediately be a student in our Adrand College of Liberal Arts because that's the largest college in terms of number of majors and the widest variety of majors. Not necessarily the number of students, but it does offer the greatest variety. And if you're not sure exactly what you want to do, having variety is important. You're going to have an academic advisor who is there to help you choose classes that mirror some of your interests. The other thing that will happen is just by virtue of taking courses through the core curriculum, which by design has classes across the spectrum academically, naturally what will emerge are some areas of academic interest for you. And that paired with the conversations you're going to have with your advisor will lead to you finding a major before the end of your sophomore year. So there's ample time for you to do that. No student should feel pressured to know exactly what they want to do with the rest of their lives at this stage. So, young Brennans, that's a really really good and insightful question. Okay, Lauren Heineman asks, how many deferred students are typically admitted to TCU? Um, so I don't know that we have a typical. It ranges every year. There are some years where we'll have 30 or 40% of students who had been deferred from the early action round to regular decision who get in. And then there are going to be years where that's much lower. I can tell you right now that it's looking like this year it's going to be a little bit lower than what we see in an average year. The response rate, and that's a huge factor in how many students we could admit from that deferred pool, the response rate of students who were admitted early action has been strong. That's great for the university, but if you're sitting there as a deferred student, I know that that means that can be a little anxiety inducing. So the good news is you don't have much longer to wait, and we really do try to admit as many students as we can. And I will tell you that having gone through files over the last 6 weeks, but especially the last 2 weeks as it's really started to ramp up in terms of our committees making final decisions, we've had some really tough choices. We have so many amazing students who want to come to TCU, and we're honored that you are out there and you want to be part of the community. And it's really not fun to say no to students, but unfortunately, not every student who applied is able to be admitted. Um, okay. Um, C. Hendricks asks, how did TCU react to COVID? What percentage of classes are online now? And how about last year? Um, so, really good questions. I think we reacted to COVID very well. We let the science do much of the talking when it came to leadership making decisions, but we also injected a good bit of common sense into it. And so last year, in the 2020-2021 school year, for the first semester, students were given the option as to whether they wanted to take coursework online or in person. And faculty were also allowed to choose whether they taught online or in person. And in that first semester, the fall 20 semester, I would say more than half of the courses were offered online. Now, in the 21-22 school year, nothing is virtual. Everything is in person. And by the way, last year, almost all of the students were living in residence halls. So even at the point when we didn't know nearly as much about the the virus as we do now, and through some of the peaks that we saw, we have been, in terms of our students in residence, have been in person the entire time. The only time we were home, where the students were home, was when the pandemic first struck in March 2020. Aside from that, our students have been on campus. TCU just yesterday, in fact, lifted the indoor mask mandate, um, following CDC guidelines. Again, trying to balance what the best scientists are telling us with the needs of our community. And you can go online. There, TCU does a really good job of keeping a dashboard of information that will tell you at any given moment how many cases are on campus, and the numbers have been incredibly low. So I think we've done a really, really nice job, but I do appreciate that conversation. Okay, Paula asks, hi, Zachary asks, sorry, I applied for ED as a transfer student, but I haven't heard anything as of yet. Do you know when I will find out? So if you applied as a transfer student for fall of 22, we will send out those decisions in batches. We usually will get decisions out about on a monthly basis. Um, and so we had a small batch of decisions that went out just last week, and we will have another round here very soon. Um, and it's just a matter of how quickly our transfer team can get the transcripts evaluated, get those courses articulated, and get those decisions back out to you. But we love our transfer students. And actually, going back to a question that was asked earlier about deferred students who how many are admitted. Many of our students who transfer into TCU are students who originally applied for admission out of high school and were not admitted. But the fire for TCU never left them. And they said, I know my heart is in Fort Worth. This is where I want to be. And to you, students, if you fall into that category where you're not admitted to the university, but you still have this passion for TCU, we would encourage you to start at another institution. It could be at a 2-year school or a 4-year school. And as early as after your first semester, you could transfer to TCU. As long as you have successfully completed 12 credit hours in what we consider a long semester, that would be either a fall semester or a spring semester, then you become eligible for admission to the university. And again, a lot of students will do that. So Zachary, to answer your question, if you sent in your application, let's say a month ago, it's very likely that you're going to be hearing from us in that next batch of decisions. Okay. Lisa asks, when is a good time to visit TCU with your senior, before or after the decision? Great question. There's no right answer to this. Many students will visit colleges before a decision comes in because um, that will help them figure out if they want to even apply. But if you're at the stage right now where you're a senior, as you've asked the question, um, then I would suggest waiting to visit until after. Now, part of this is dependent on where you live. If you're local, then it really doesn't matter because it's no big stretch for you to come to campus. But if you live in California, Illinois, Florida, or anywhere else that's going to require significant resources, then since we're only a couple of weeks away from that final decision, I would encourage you to wait, see if you got in, and then come to campus. And again, going back to the point I made earlier about the admitted student programs, if you come now, you'd be coming for one of our daily visits, and those are wonderful programs. If you come anytime during the week, Monday through Friday, you get a half-hour information session followed by a 75-minute walking tour of campus. If you come on the weekends or weekend, Saturday, we offer just the tour portion, not the information session. And all the time, we offer a self-guided tour. All of those things are great. You're going to get a good experience. But if you have the opportunity to come to the admitted student program, Experience TCU, you get a complete day that starts at 8 o'clock in the morning, goes till 3:30 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And not only do you get the tour and the information session, but you get to sit in on a student panel. You get to hear from financial aid and religious and spiritual life and fraternity and sorority life and And you get to be in a large space with a lot of students who have also been admitted. And so you really get to see who your future classmates might be, and that might be an important factor for you. That's something we didn't touch on at all really earlier, which is that human element of your classmates, your peers, the people you're actually going to be living in the residence halls with. So it's not just, is this a nice residence hall and does it have a bed and a dresser and a desk, but who's going to be the person who is sharing this space with me. So I think, Lisa, that's a long-winded way of my saying at this point in the cycle for a senior, probably okay to wait. But if you are a junior in high school watching this right now and thinking, should I visit now or wait a year from now till I get in? I think it's absolutely fine to visit before. Okay, let's see. Anna asks, let's see, what is Anna asking? Which is better for pre-med, TCU or SMU? Daughter was admitted to both, but only got into the honors program at SMU, which may influence her decision. We're still waiting for the final decision on round 2 for TCU. Is it difficult to get freshman classes as non-honors at TCU? Okay, Anna, great question. It's a layered question. I'm going to get to all of it. Okay, first of all, I can't answer which school is better, TCU or SMU for pre-med, because I've only ever worked at TCU. I have much respect for SMU. I have a lot of friends who work there and who have gone there. But as somebody who's never been employed there, I can't really comment on their program. What I can tell you is TCU has what the Austin American Statesman has said is the best pre-med program in the state of Texas. Now, that's a really powerful statement on its own. When you consider the fact that the Austin American Statesman is located in the city of Austin and that there is a very large flagship public institution in that city, and their newspaper has said that we have the best pre med program in the state, I think that speaks volumes. Why do they say that? Our students are getting into med school at about twice the national average. That's been consistent for decades. Our students are going to wonderful med schools, and the proof is in the pudding. It's not just that they're getting into med school, they're thriving once they are there. UT Southwestern, which is in Dallas, is a wonderful medical school, and we send a lot of students there. They have told us that our students perform at about 3/10 a GPA point higher than non TCU students. So they're doing the work once they get in. It means that our pre-med program is preparing students to thrive once they are there. I think this goes back to the point I was making earlier about having small class sizes and having an undergraduate focused experience, because the professors that you're going to have in the pre-med program are going to know you exceedingly well. So much so that when it comes time to apply to medical school, the letter of recommendation that your daughter is going to get, Anna, is not going to be just from a professor. It is a team letter that is jointly constructed by all of the faculty members the student has had in pre-med. And so that really gives a lot of credibility. You've got the entire weight of the university behind you. And so I think for those reasons, our pre-med program is just fantastic. When it comes to honors, students who applied in the early round to our honors college were either admitted or deferred to that next round. So we didn't actually deny anybody yet to the honors college. Part of the calculus in this second round is going to be what percentage of those who were invited initially have accepted, and that will let us know how much space there is. Please do let us know, by the way, if that is going to be a factor for you. We are interested in knowing that information. So you could reach out to your assigned admission counselor, who could give you a little bit more information about timeline and process on the honors college. For students who are not in the honors college, I think it's important to know you are still receiving a world-class education. You will still get classes. We are not one of those schools where students frequently get shut out of classes. We don't have like a lot of high impact places where students aren't getting classes and therefore they're waiting to graduate in 4.5 or 5 years. That is the case at a lot of other institutions, not so at TCU. So the fact that a student isn't in the John V. Roach Honors College really will have no bearing as to whether they can get classes and be able to persist and graduate on time. Okay, let's see. Lisa asks, are religious courses required all 4 years? The answer is no. We require, as part of our core curriculum, that every student take one class in a religious tradition. What that religious tradition is entirely up to you. Now, you might wonder, hey, it's Texas Christian University. Don't I have to take Christianity? Well, certainly, if you want to, we have lots of courses in Christianity through the Department of Religion. Um, but it's important to know that they are taught from an academic perspective, not a didactic perspective. And so, for that reason, you're going to have choices amongst many religions. There are a lot of students who come here and they may be devout Christians and say, you know what, I sort of get the Christian thing. I'd really like to learn about Eastern religions or Caribbean religions. And those classes would also satisfy our core curriculum as far as that religious tradition goes. Okay. Scott Martin asks, I'm wondering about the campus layout. From my own visitations and talking to current attendees, I see the campus is connected from the sports fields to the classrooms. How does this impact the community? Does it make it more cohesive? Scott, I'm really glad you asked that question. I love the layout of our campus. I think it just makes a great deal of sense. First of all, the thing you have to know, if you haven't been to TCU or you haven't spent a lot of time on campus, and if you go to any college campus, the first time you're there, you're going to be really turned around. So just understand that going in. I think our campus layout makes a whole lot of sense. You fairly seamlessly go from the far end on the western side, which is the athletic facilities, intramural fields, the baseball diamond, the soccer field, track and field, and so forth. That's sort of in one corner, and you quickly move towards Stadium Drive. That's where Amon G. Carter Stadium is. That's where our football team plays. That's where Schollmeyer Arena is, where our men's and women's basketball team and our women's volleyball team plays. And in on the southwest corner of Stadium and Bel Air is where you have the Worth Hills part of our residence hall system. And then very quickly, when you hop over to the other side of Stadium, you really get to the core of the sort of social fabric of campus. And that is the Brown Lupton University Union, that what we call the Blue, that's our student union, as well as almost all of the rest of the residence halls that flank the commons north and south. On the far east side of the of the commons, you've got Scarborough Hall, which is where our John V. Roach Honors College is. You've got other administrative buildings there, as well as some academics. And then once you cross over University Drive, you get to the heart of the academic part of campus, the academic commons. And that's where most of the students' classes will be, depending on what your major is. For example, if you're a dance major or an education major, most of your classes will be on the west side of University Drive. But anyway, athletics, residence halls, academics, it all flows really nicely. And I'll say this about the architecture. You know, the university has put in a lot of money to the physical space of campus over the last 15 years, literally hundreds of millions of dollars to beautify the campus and architecturally make it so that as you're walking, you are constantly sort of just looking at the next horizon. There's this almost wave that pushes you forward to the next building and the next building, and that is completely by design. And so, so there was a lot of intentionality put into the space, and I think if you haven't been to campus, when you visit, you're gonna love it. Okay. Ella DeFazio asks, would you recommend sending in SAT scores for the class of 2023 applying next year? So Ella, I'm glad you're asking that question because we might very well have students here who are going to be applying a year from now, and they're still not exactly sure what to do as far as test scores go. TCU is in the middle year of a 3-year test optional trial. So for students who will be applying next year, class of 23 students, you are not required to send in test scores. You certainly can. TCU has what we call our do no harm policy. And what that means is you will not be penalized for sending in scores if they are sub-profile. If your scores enhance your profile, that's great. We will look at it, we will consider it. And if they don't, we'll ignore it. And so if you have a test then you can feel comfortable turning it in knowing that it's not going to harm you. If you don't have a test, either you've just chosen not to submit it, or you didn't have an opportunity to sit for it, that's fine too. Um, our statistics have shown that students, we had lots of students last year, and I can guarantee we will have lots of students who start in the fall of 22 who will come to TCU without having taken or having submitted a standardized exam. Even students who are earning scholarships at TCU can do so without having standardized test scores. Now, if you're asking me, would a very strong test score help me? Sure, that would enhance your profile. So if you have a 35 ACT or a 1510 SAT, then by all means, you should send that in because that will help you. But if you have a 22 ACT, or if you've got a 980 SAT, then don't worry about it. You can send it in or not send it in, and we likely are just not going to consider it. We're going to focus more on your grades, what you have done day in and day out over the course of 4 years of high school. Okay, Tatum Newcomer asks, can you talk about early action versus early decision? Are you able to get scholarship money if you apply early decision? Tatum, great question, especially that second question, which I will get to. I mean, the first question is great too, but I'm glad you asked the second question because you're asking a question that a lot of people are thinking but don't often verbalize or write. So first, early action versus early decision. The difference there is early action is a non-binding application, meaning you submit it early and you will hear from us early, but you are not obligated to enroll if you're admitted. So you will still have until May 1st, which is the national candidate reply date, to tell us if you plan to enroll at TCU. Early decision is a binding application where you say TCU is my number one school and I will attend if I'm admitted. And I will withdraw my other applications from every other school and send in my enrollment deposit to hold my spot early. If you are an early decision student who is admitted, early decision round one, you're going to be asked to submit your enrollment deposit by January 15th. If you're an early decision round two student who's admitted, you're going to be asked to submit your enrollment deposit by April 1st. So that holds your spot, and you need to withdraw your other application. It's a really serious commitment. And for that reason, our early decision rounds have much smaller applicant pools, much bigger early action and regular decision pools. So don't feel pressured into applying early decision if you aren't 100% sure this is where you want to be. Okay, to your second question, there is a line of thinking out there that, well, I'm not going to get any scholarship money if I apply early decision because of all the things that this guy just said. The school knows that I have to come if I'm admitted, so why would they give me any money? And the answer is because you have earned it. And as a school that preaches ethical leadership, literally it's baked into the DNA of the university in the form of our mission statement. It would be completely unethical of us to say, yeah, you've earned this scholarship by the rubric that we've created, but we're going to withhold it from you because, aha, we know we've got you. We don't do that. There may be other colleges that do that. I don't know, but we definitely do not do that. So we have early decision students every year who are admitted. They get academic scholarships, and they're very happy, and they enroll at TCU. Okay, so thank you for that question. Very good question. Kathleen asks, or I guess Emma asks, it was on Kathleen's account. Emma Trail from Austin asks, are freshmen required to live on campus, and is there typically enough housing for all freshmen who want to live in the dorms? All first-year students, and in fact, all second-year students also are required to live on campus. We have enough room in the residence halls for all first and second year students to live on campus. We even have some space for upper class students. So if you are entering your third year and you want to live on campus, you can enter a lottery system and there might be space for you. Most students, though, by the end of the second year, they're ready to move off campus. And understand when we say off campus, it's really a matter of who owns the building, because off-campus housing could be just as close to your classes as an on-campus residence hall would be. We have houses and apartment buildings that are in the area the vast majority of TCU students live basically on campus. Um, the first and second year residence halls are fantastic. If you come in with advanced academic standing, let's say you've taken AP exams and you've scored high enough on enough of them to where you are academically a second year student, a sophomore, you still need to live on campus for 2 years. There is a 2 year residency requirement no matter what your academic standing is. Okay. So you would, in essence, be living on campus your sophomore and junior year if you arrive with let's say 30 or more credit hours amassed. If you choose to live in a fraternity house or a sorority house your second year at TCU, that would count as living on campus because those are university owned buildings. So that would be the second of that 2 year residency requirement. But Emma, to answer your question, yes, required to live on campus. And I would say somewhere in the neighborhood of 97% of first year students do. If you are a local student and would like to stay home or need to stay home for one reason or another, you can petition to do that, and then in most cases we will grant you that ability. But most students will live on campus. Let's see. So Jill asks, on average, for transferring sophomores going into junior year, what was the average GPA admitted? So Jill, if you are a transfer student and you have, let's say, 2 years under your belt at another institution, the minimum GPA required is 2.7. And for most majors, that really is all you need. You could have a 2.7, 2.8, and you've proven that you can do college level work. For most majors, as long as you have that GPA in core academic subject areas, or I should say not core, transferable, because those aren't necessarily the same thing, transferable subject areas, and that you are in good disciplinary standing at your institution and every institution that you have attended, because we do require that, then it's pretty straightforward. There are some majors that require a slightly higher GPA. And if you go to the admissions website and look at the transfer requirements, it will be very clear what GPA is required based on the major that you are interested in. So thank you very much. Chase says, I am a veteran that applied as a transfer student using the GI Bill. I was wondering if TCU has very many veterans on campus. Great question, Chase. And first of all, thank you for your service to our country and defending our freedoms. We are a veteran-friendly campus. We have a lot of veterans on our campus. And not only can you use the GI Bill at TCU, but we are a yellow ribbon school, which means that which means that TCU will see what funding you have available through the GI Bill and can make up the difference, can make up that delta between what benefits you have and what the cost of attendance is. We have a veterans office, and you're going to get connected, plugged in with a lot of folks here who have served our country before. Now, I just used the word delta, which reminded me I have another funny thing to share with you. So my wife, as a gift, got me these, like little calendar, like daily jokes on a calendar. And the theme of the calendar that she gave me was tricks to appear smart in meetings. Okay, tricks to appear smart in meetings. So this is the one from today. Instead of difference, say delta. Notice I just said delta. That's what reminded me. When speaking about the difference, use the word delta so it sounds like you know math. Say, these options sound similar. Can someone explain the delta? You're going to sound really smart. So even though it's tricks to appear smart in meetings, I think it's for students. Tricks to appear smart in class. When you're talking to a teacher, if you use the word delta instead of difference, I think it's going to go a long way in making the teacher think you're smart. Okay. Margaret asks, will I need a car on campus? What is transportation like? Margaret, no, you don't need a car on campus. Yes, you can have a car on campus. We don't have any restrictions. I think what TCU students would tell you is among the most common complaints that our students have, and that you're going to find this on just about any college campus, is parking. There isn't enough parking for everybody who has a car. Because of our location, we're about 10 minutes from downtown. We're 35 minutes from DFW Airport. You can take an Uber or Lyft anywhere you want to go. And you're going to have friends who do have cars. So you definitely don't need a car to get around. And much of what you're going to want to do is within walking distance anyway. Um, and you also don't necessarily want to be the friend who has a car, because then everybody's going to come out of the woodwork and say, "Hey, Margaret, um, can I hitch a ride with you to Target or wherever you want to go?" So I would say you definitely don't need one, but you certainly can have one. It's totally up to you. Okay. Let's see. Mora asks, have a couple of questions. My son got accepted. Yay! Congratulations. Go Frogs. I'd like to know, how often does TCU offer scholarship, and how big is the chance for the student to maintain a scholarship for the full 4 years? Okay. So, first of all, when a student is admitted to TCU, along with the offer of admission, if there is a scholarship offer, you will see that in the portal. So when the student logs into the My TCU portal, in the upper right-hand corner, there will be a header that says letters, and underneath that will be the decision letter, the offer of admission in PDF form, as well as, if you earned a scholarship letter. It's going to be right there. So it's very clear if you got one or not. Um, I would say, in terms of academic scholarships, which are the ones that we administer in the Office of Admission, um, in any given year, it could be 40 to 50% of the students will get an academic scholarship, maybe a little bit more in some years, maybe a little bit less in other years. It really just depends on the composition of the students. And if you are not given an academic scholarship, number one, you can always apply for, and we certainly would encourage you to apply for, need-based financial aid. Number two, there may be other scholarship dollars available to you that are not administered through the Office of Admission. If you go to the Office of Financial Aid's website, they have a searchable database. Now, I should warn you, most of those scholarships are for returning students, but there may be some in there that are for incoming first year or incoming transfer students. The other thing I want to point you to is, every year we will give out something called the Academic Achievement Award. And that is a scholarship for returning students who did not get an academic scholarship when they were admitted to TCU. It is our way of saying, look, we know we have many, many talented students, and we didn't have an opportunity to acknowledge that through the form of scholarship for everybody, but we're going to take the best students after their first year at TCU, and it's based strictly on GPA. And we will usually give away 30 to 50 of those $10,000 awards that are renewable for the remaining 3 years on campus. So that's some place to look. To answer your second question, the student will maintain, so long as they maintain a minimum GPA, and it's not like 3.9 or something like that, it's definitely doable. Then money is guaranteed for all 4 years. So it's strictly based on whether they can maintain the GPA. So, for example, if you get a Dean scholarship, which is $25,000 annually, that's in essence a $100,000 scholarship that you've been awarded, which is a pretty significant amount of money. Okay. So Elena asks, I am applying for the fall semester. Therefore, I want to know if I'm still considered, since the deadline has already passed. And I read that students who apply after February 1st are still considered for available space. How accurate is this statement? Elena, very good question. It is accurate that we will still review your application, and you will get a decision from us. And whether or not you're admitted is going to be based on the space available. Part of that is still unknown, because we don't know how many offers of admission exactly we're going to make here in the next couple of weeks. And we are still learning on a daily basis how many students we've already offered admission to who have accepted those offers. So let's say you complete your application today on March 2nd. You're not going to hear back from us when we send out decisions here in a couple weeks, but you probably will hear back from us around April 1st or maybe shortly thereafter, because we certainly want to be able to notify you in time for you to make a good decision if you're admitted to TCU, or if you're not and you're looking at other options, before that May 1st national candidate reply date. Okay. Teresa asks, are admissions decisions based on major, or is it a holistic decision? For example, if a student is torn between two majors, should they apply undeclared or choose one? If they aren't admitted based on a particular major, can they change it and be reconsidered? This is a wonderful question, Teresa. I think this was the topic of our, let's see, was it last month? It might have been February. It was either February or December when the topic was how choosing a major impacts the decision. And the answer is it can. It just depends on what that major is. In some cases, it can have a big impact on it, and in other cases, it won't matter at all. For most majors at TCU, it's not going to matter whatsoever. And I guess what I would say is we review holistically, and that includes the selection of major. So we're taking everything into account when we look at a student's application for admission. Primarily, we're looking at a student's academic record. We want to be sure that a student can succeed in the classroom. So looking at the transcript, evaluating the course rigor relative to what was offered at the high school, because we contextualize everything, and then the letters of recommendation we require, and the essay that the student writes, and the activities that the students have chosen for themselves, and so forth. But the application asks a lot of questions, and we don't ask any question that we don't care about the answer to. So any piece to the application could make a difference. And the reason why we call it holistic is because we look at everything, and because what matters for one applicant might be a little bit different from another one. So the answer is yes, we do look holistically. Okay, Noel asks, my son is a junior planning on the March 28th Monday event. That's our Monday at TCU event. What should he see while on campus, currently leaning toward business or engineering? Okay, so Noel, this is a great question. What we say to students is when you register for the event, which you've already done, it sounds like, it will ask you what your intended major is. And then on that day, on that Monday at TCU, after lunch, we actually will dismiss the groups by their academic program. So you don't have to make a decision today, but sometime before the end of lunch on March 28th, you all will need to decide, do you want to spend some time learning more about business or about engineering? It's possible if you are coming together that you split up, and maybe the parent go to one of those and the student go to the other, and that way you can compare notes, because you're not going to have an opportunity to do both of those things at the same time. Of course, afterwards we can always connect you with somebody in the department that you didn't get to, but I think always better to see people in person when possible. Okay, we have time probably for one or two more questions. So I'm just scanning to see what else we have. Okay, Marcy asks, students with 504 IEP, how much support do you offer them? So if a student comes in, Marcy, with a learning difference, a documented learning difference, and other sort of needs where accommodations can be of great use, then we have resources. We have an Office of Access and Accommodation. They want to hear from you. They want to have they would want to have a plan that was put in place fairly recently. So the most recent documentation you can provide will be incredibly helpful to them. Our faculty are very accommodating. And I think this goes to the point of being part of this collaborative, connected environment. It is in everybody's best interests for our students to succeed. And we are in the business of taking down barriers, not putting up barriers. And so, for that reason, you're going to find at TCU we have an incredibly accommodating campus. And so, please do reach out to our Office of Access and Accommodation. I think you're going to be really pleased by what you see. Okay, we are just about at the top of the hour, so I'm going to end it here by saying thank you very much. I'm so sorry we couldn't get to all of the other questions that were in there. I know there were a lot. I hope some of what we talked about helped you think about the factors that might be important to you when you're deciding where ultimately to enroll. We are here. Please come visit us. If you're an admitted student, come to Experience TCU. If you haven't yet been admitted, if you haven't yet applied, come for a daily visit. Come to Monday at TCU. You can find those registrations on our website. You can also find lots of other information. Follow us on social media at TCU Admission. You can find us on Instagram, on Twitter, if you're a parent, because students don't go on Twitter. If you are active on YouTube, you're going to see a lot of our content is put up on YouTube. We want to remain in touch with you. And if you have any follow-up questions, don't hesitate to reach out. You can call us at 817-257-7490, or you can email us at frogmail, FROGMAIL, at tcu.edu. I hope you all have a wonderful evening. Go Frogs.